Do not let people erase who you are. That's what I want to just tell is like people, but especially and not just people of color, but also the Asians, and especially and also the Filipinos too. Don't let yourself or other people erase who you are, because who you are is amazing. And it should be celebrated. Celebrating myself, it brought in a lot. It brought in a lot of opportunity. It made me embrace who I am, not just as a wrestler, but as a person. I call myself the Fat Femme Asian Sensation because, back in the day, the dating app days when you were allowed to say no fats, no femmes, no Asians, or anything like that, and, where you're able to be that, those things were very hurtful. So I took that back as power. When I was simply celebrating myself, that's when I got the bookings. That's when I got, the QWI for the last 4 years.
Right.
That's when, I got the Effie's Big Gay Brunches. That's when, simply just celebrating yourself, who you are as a person, will just reap in more benefits than just hiding. You shouldn't, it's like if you need to hide for safety reasons, don't be afraid to just simply being yourself for a while, because you'll never know when a benefit will come and you'll be able to reap what you sow.
All right, we are continuing our Asian American Pacific Islander, that's a long name, Heritage Month special here in May. And our guest this week is probably the most Filipino wrestler name I've seen in the ring. I've seen wrestlers on socials, but not to see them face to face, that's completely different. We have Mateo Valentine in the program. How are you?
I'm doing well. I can't believe that it is the most Filipino name in the ring. I mean, hold on. You're probably right. There
is Filipino wrestlers I've seen on social media. That because of course there's Super P, who's like one of the bigger ones in the Philippines. So Super P is a wrestler based in the Philippines. So there's another wrestler named, oh man, our Filipino showing right off the bat on this episode. There is a wrestler named El Capitonero. There we go. Took me a while. So that's basically the Filipino independence in a wrestling gimmick. So to see it in ring is completely different, which I'm going to ask, where did the name come from?
Oh, you're gonna die, actually. Okay.
I'm laughing already.
So my trainer actually gave me my name because it's really funny because he's a personal trainer.
Right.
And so he was actually, before practice, he was doing personal training with someone. I was in, and then I came by and he's like, "Have you ever watched Superstore?"
Okay.
And I was yeah. And if you say that I'm the gay boy Mateo who's really sassy and could kill you with your words, then yeah, then I'm gonna kill you. And it just stuck.
Wow.
It just stuck. So I was just like, hey, how about we make it even more Filipino? That's totally fine. Let's go with Mateo.
Because it's funny because that still sticks with me, because I think when I saw you in Uncanny, literally the name's Mateo. I'm like, oh shoot, is he Filipino? That was the light bulb went up. I was like, wait a second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's it's like you and I know. It's just when we hear an inkling of Filipino, it's like,
it's that Leonardo that was it the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It's like, hey.
Yeah. It's there's this meme in TikTok. There's an audio on TikTok where it's like, Philippines. And I'm like, yeah. No matter what, so we will do that.
Because I think you're the only guest in a while that wrestled outside of Texas. And being in Chicago, let's be very big. You don't have to take particulars. Are you from the north side or on the south side?
I'm from the northwest side. I'm born and raised and still live in Jefferson Park, which is literally by O'Hare, but it's just one way down. I can drive into the city proper, and then another place I can take the highways to go into the burbs.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. It's interesting because I guess I'm asking this too, how is the rest? Of course, Chicago is synonymous with the CM Punks and the Seth Rollins of the world. On the independent level, what is the wrestling scene like in Chicago? Or maybe we'll throw in Illinois in general. Like, what's the wrestling scene like?
It's legendary.
Okay.
Everybody, it's like it like before, before the Punks, before the Seth Rollins, there was, for the old heads out there, there's something called Windy City Pro Wrestling out there.
Mm,
There was AAW, there's freelance, there's obviously Chicago style wrestling as like the mains, and then you have other places like Power Entertainment, you have things like 01, you have Wrestle League in the city, and it's just like Chicago wrestling and Illinois based wrestling is such a staple in the
mhm.
wrestling scene because essentially in the Midwest, it is very, very awesome because you can try. It's like I can literally travel an hour north, and I'm in Wisconsin. I can drive 2 hours another way. I'm in Iowa. I can drive the 4 hours down, down south, and I can be in, and I can be in St. Louis. I can go. It's like it's such a good city to make those towns. It's such a good city to make those states that you want to. It's not like it's like with Texas. It's such a legendary place because it's even though it's big. It's like it's so synonymous with pro wrestling, in which is just like outside looking in. Outside looking in, I want to do the Texas tours. I
Right.
want to do the Texas runs, even though people in Texas know the curse about it. That it's just like you'll never leave. It's like you'll never leave Texas or anything like that. But it's just
Yeah.
like outside looking in personally, because I would love to do a Texas tour.
How would you describe Chicago wrestling? Like, of course, Texas is the Texas strong style. How would you describe the type of wrestling that the Chicagoland offers as you started to really get to know yourself as a wrestler?
I would say that Chicago and Illinois based wrestling, the scene is really it's a mixture of that grandeur old school, but you combine it with a lot of high combat
Mm,
based performances. So you do have that combination of lucha and high spot and those death defying and that while you still have that regalness of that old school, like what you saw in the golden age and everything.
right.
It's all just mixed in it. Of course, it's just like, Texas is known for the Texas death matches too. It's just, Wisconsin is well known for that too up here. And then we have other places, and then, we have other places like Ruthless and all that just do, and we love wrestling and everything that is just so Midwest. I don't like to call
Mm,
it like what makes Chicago it's like so different. I would like to say that it's like it's all just about the Midwest. That just
right.
makes it all like totally different and the same. But going back to your question, it is I say that it is a combination of that old school grandeur with the combination of that high flying, high combat, strong, quote unquote strong style kind of style as well.
I'm kind of curious because do you remember your very first Texas show? And what was it like? I wouldn't say it's a clash of culture, but rather differences in the wrestling scenes. What was your first debut in Texas?
It was for a how do I say it? It was for a it was for a pride show in San
Okay.
Antonio with a promotion that is no longer there because the promoter is not a good person anymore. But I got to face Devin Carter, and
Oh,
I remember I was only two. I believe I was only like 2 years in,
right.
and Devin Carter was just like, "Oh my god, I'm facing Mateo Valentine and everything," and I was just like, "Oh my god, I'm getting the person who is usually starstruck and
Yeah.
everything, blah blah blah." And so when I met when I met them, and we did our styles together, it was very similar, but then it was also that kind of strong, that Midwest strong style that I enjoyed, in which it was just like, oh, Texas is bringing it to me. So now I got to bring it back and everything. So I would say, I would say that there wasn't that much of a difference between the styles. It was more, it was just a lot of similarity because it was what I was really used to, which was that grandeur combined with the combat of it all, which I really enjoyed.
We're going to bring up Uncanny. That's probably where I've seen you twice within that time leading up to the interview. Uncanny being a queer promotion. What was it like working with something that's exclusive within the queer community? And that's a wrestling show at the same time.
It feels so safe. It feels like I can freely express myself no matter how I'm feeling or anything. And I can just simply be myself. I can simply, and that's what, what normally people want in their life, is that place or that time that they can just take off that mask and truly be themselves. Normally for me, it's a queer space where it's just like I'm with like-minded people who, need that time off to just like not put up a mask or anything like that. And Uncanny to me is such an incredible promotion because it allows me to relax. They allow me to do the things I normally wouldn't do. But then, then a lot of people would say it's like they allow me to be focused on the wrestler and not being the queer part. But it's just like but Uncanny makes me and helps me embrace who I am, which is an Asian queer wrestler. It makes me embrace all facets of who I am as a person. And, and they come at me with love and support. And so that's what I want to reflect that with every time that I'm at Uncanny, is that love and support while I'm kicking ass and taking names and making sure that I become the next Uncanny Attractions Unchampion.
I was thinking about that too. Have you ever really brought the lessons that you've had with Uncanny, and let's say you're going back to Chicago, how much of those lessons and experiences that you have and really apply that to where you're at back in Chicago?
Yes. I will be honest with you. Because Chicago is such an incredible place for wrestling. However, because it is Chicago and it is a mecca for pro wrestling, it's like I admit to myself that I slipped through the cracks. And so as I'm watching shows or I'm watching, my friends on or I'm on social media and everything, it was very much as just like, there are some things that I can't do. And there are some things that, I wish I could do better like them and everything. But then it gets to and then it gets to the whole imposter syndrome, everything. But when I go to Uncanny and I leave Uncanny, it's like there was a moment in which it's just like, it makes me, it's like a huge reset button, being like, simply being it's a life lesson. Simply being yourself gets you over. Simply being yourself is what people will pay tickets for. Simply being yourself is what essentially everyone will relate to and either cheer or boo you. And so it's just whenever I go to, there was this one time, I think it was the last time I was at Uncanny, it was the ladder match that I was part of, that when I got the star and everything, and I heard that crowd, and I was just simply just celebrating, queer joy and all. that's what I took away from is
Mhm.
just celebration of myself, because even though I'm from Chicago and everything and it is such, a safe city, I go to other places like Wisconsin, Iowa, Indiana. I go to all these small towns that is just like that are just like, you know, they don't have that representation. They don't have that kind of whole thing. And they need a person that can just celebrate that joy. That's a life lesson that I will always take away from
Right.
Uncanny, is that I have to consistently remind myself. It's just like just being yourself is what's going to set you apart from a lot of.
Did it take a long time for you to break in and figuring out your voice as a wrestler? And we'll delve into the heritage part, but
Mhm.
as a person, how long did it really take you to break in and understand this is who I am, this is who I am as a wrestler, and this is me at the end of the day?
That's a hard question.
I can go from
That's a
brook to
hard
ocean really
question
quickly.
because I would like punk. I would say I would punk out.
Yeah.
It's like I would kind of like punk out and say, well, I'm current. It's like we're all changing and everything, and
Yeah.
so it's just like when I felt like I broke out and everything, blah blah blah. But I think this year, I think it was like it's
Okay.
literally like this year that I realize it's not the fact of like breaking out and everything, like going to the States and getting booked and everything like that,
Yeah.
but it was more like a sense of I know who I am as a person and who I
Okay.
am as a wrestler. And so I can deliver it's like I can deliver that. I can deliver that in a show. No matter, it's like depend on the promotion that books me and everything. And I can proudly say that I am very consistent enough
Okay.
to promotions that it's just like it's like the crowd loves me and they will react to me. And so it's just
Mm.
like breaking out like that gives a simpler self of just being like, I have not a niche, but I have that skill set.
Oh, so it's more like you know what your role would be a better you know your part. I think that's a better way of saying it. You
Yes.
know your part because role makes it sound like it's like a play, but you know your part on how a wrestling show goes just because of how you built up the character and the personality that you're doing things in the ring.
Yes, it's very much variety. It's like I always say wrestling is a variety show.
Right.
Sometimes you have the evil Knievel, you have the
Hmm.
stunt people, you have the people with the lion, you have the contortionists, you have the weirdos and everything. I have my it's like I broke, and like by saying I broke out, it means that I know my place in wrestling.
Okay,
I know my
that's a better way of saying that. You're
I
right.
know my place in which if people want to invest their money in it, I can guarantee you will get an increased sum in profits. But if you don't agree with me, if you don't see it, then that's totally fine too. I told myself, I might not be everybody's cup of tea, but there are some people who enjoy tea.
Right. Oh wow, you blew my mind. You blew my mind. Wow. Because like, especially because I was thinking about, because it is AAPI month,
Mhm.
and I'm curious. Like, were you emigrated here in the U.S. or were you born in the Philippines that emigrated here?
I was born and raised in the US. My mom and dad immigrated to the US, and so they had me so they had me in Chicago. So technically it's like I don't have that kind of history where I immigrated. It's like I have some relatives that had that time. And so it's just like hearing their stories is that inspirational.
How much of the history, even though it's a lot of word of mouth, especially if you are born in the US, how much of the values, the culture of being Filipino, how much is that imprinted on you, even though you were born in the US?
Oh, it's very important to me. Filipinos, we like to feed. We like to pay for everything. And but it's like we like that family aspect. We like that we like that community. And that's what I love, that I like to bring in pro wrestling, is that making sure that, every time I'm in a show, I'm making sure that everybody is being part of that community and making sure that everybody feels welcome, everybody, feels valued and everything. I think everyone from like the crew, the refs, the wrestler, of course the wrestlers, but like the promoters, the commentators, the tech people, just being like, thank you guys so much for like doing all of this, because it's just like, it's like one person means a lot to an entire group and everything. And it's not just that whole thing. It's very much, I love the fact that it's just very much as like it's so toxic to say it's like a family thing.
All right.
We're family and everything, but that's what's so imprinted on me as a Filipino pro wrestler, is that I want to create that family no matter where I am.
Because I was thinking about this too, because like wrestling is a very difficult profession to do. And I'm sure every Filipino parent is probably having anxiety attacks of choosing that career. How much of that has become like, how much of your parents were they very adamant at first, but when they started to say, okay, I know what he's doing in his life, how long did that take to really to harden the support of you being a wrestler?
I think I'm in a different set of culture with my family and everything, because I'm the youngest in my family.
Same.
So
I mean, look at
I'm
me.
the youngest. I'm the youngest, and I'm the only boy. And so obviously, and so I was, I was spoiled up the wazoo
I know
and
that
everything.
feeling.
And so I would, and so like even from grade school, they knew that I was the artsy one. They knew that I wanted to perform, do theater and everything. They knew, it's like, when even as I went to college and all, so hard to do the sciences and everything. It's like, I believe that's when it's like, they knew how hard I was trying, but they knew that it wasn't for me. And it wasn't until it's like I got a full-time job with benefits and everything, with health insurance and all, that I was just like, hey, I'm just gonna go pursue being an actor, because that's always what I wanted to do and everything. And so and so they supported that, obviously, because it's just like, as long as I'm healthily, I'm making steady income for myself, then it's like, they're totally fine with it. The pro wrestling aspect of it was just like, the pro wrestling aspect of it all. I'm fortunate enough that my dad was very supportive of me, that he was like, he's gonna pursue his he's gonna do pursue his dreams no matter what he wants, because it's like, that's what norm it's like. I was very privileged with my family, because it's like, they knew like the reason why they wanted to immigrate to America is because it's just like, they wanted it's like, essentially, it's like, they wanted their children to make sure that they were able to do kind of what they wanted to do. Sometimes, if it means being a nurse, and that's totally fine and everything like that. But like, for me, I wanted to be the artsy one. And so they were just like, if you wanted to do it, as long as you have a job, you're fine. Pro wrestling, as long as you were still having that full-time job with your health insurance, just in case you get hurt, then that's totally fine. You should. It's like, my sister was the one that was freaking out about it, being like, it's like, you're gonna get hurt and all that stuff. My dad was really old and really didn't really understand what pro wrestling was, and was like, and knew like how much his son was like falling and hurting, and taking chair shots, and like going through ladders and everything, and tables.
Oh no.
Like, he didn't understand that part. But he knew that his son was being a star. And so that's what he took out of it when he was alive and everything. That it's like, that his son was working on, his son is being a star. And that's what, and that I was so proud of and everything. That's what he was so proud of and all. But it's like, I thank my parents so much, and my sister too, of just like allowing me to do it, because I'm a very much like, I'm gonna do it no matter what. kind of person. And, I'm glad that they gave me that permission to be like, okay, you can do it, but just remember, you get hurt, that's on you.
They're like, we'll help
Hala,
you, but if you get hurt,
hala,
you're on your own.
hala, see, you wanted to do your wrestling, and then look what happened. Ayun, sus Marios.
Oh my god. Because I was thinking about that too, where having, and having this Filipino heritage and doing your part as a wrestler. I'm sure there were so many fans that reached out to you, and particularly like people who are like our countrymen and countrywomen in the Philippines. Was it a shock that like, oh crap, all right, he's Filipino?
I didn't get a lot of like the people from the Philippines react. I don't get like a lot of
I guess
like
I'm the
messages from
first,
like
I guess. I'm the first, I guess.
no, I think I got like I get like people. I get like people who are at the shows being like kababayan, and it's like yeah,
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
and I'm just like Filipino, and it's just like kababayan. Yeah, it's like yeah, I am, and they're all like smiling, being like, I didn't know that a Filipino could be a pro wrestler, and everything like that, because it's so, but it's just like seeing that and being that representation is just so inspiring, and it just revitalizes what I want to do, because it's just like it's like, I don't want to say the stigma, but it's just like we all want it. It's just like there's a reason why we all like most Filipinos, or like some of the Filipinos go to karaoke bars and we sing like Whitney Houston, but then it's just like our 9 to 5, or like but then we go back to our 9 to 5 as nurses, or carers, and it's just like and it's just I just want to tell those people, it's just like, it is okay to pursue that dream. It is okay to, see yourself. It is okay to see yourself in a non-stereotypical kind of way. Now with my gimmick, do I take inspirations from Philippine, from Vice Ganda, and Mama Pao, and essentially all the Maya, in like all the Mayabang culture in the Philippines? Of course I am, because like that's part of me. That's my culture
Right.
and everything. It's like that is actually like the Mayabang and the Arte and like the sassy, and all that. It's like that's because that is a part of my culture that only like the Filipinos would know, but not a lot of people would know. That it's like the queer community, is being queer is part of that community. Though no, the Philippines is such a, I would say, a conservative country, but queerness is part of the culture. And so it's just like when I tell people, thank God for Drag Race Philippines and everything like that. That I tell people, it's just like, if you want to know more about my culture and how Mateo Valentine started out to be, watch Drag Race Philippines, because that gives them a gateway of being like, why are they so? It's like they're so. I only. It's like, how do it's so hard to say it in English.
Dramatic.
Yeah, it's
Dramatic.
so dramatic. It's so dramatic. It's so flamboyant.
There we go.
But
Yep,
it's
yep.
like it's so flamboyant. They take themselves so seriously, but then don't take themselves so seriously, and everything. And I just tell people. I just tell my white friends, just being like, that's my culture. That's my
Mm.
queer culture. That's my queer culture out there. It's like that. It's like that's my blood. That's
Yeah.
that's you know that's my culture and everything. And so it's just like I take that away from me, and then I feel like I'm losing the room right now. But I think again, I think my family for giving me that grace and
Right.
giving me that permission, even though you know they want me to
Yeah, because I was gonna ask that too, because like I'm sure the Filipinos will start, and I think you kind of touched upon. I want to expand on it too. How long did it take for like a foreigner to really get to accept how you're doing things in your character work in wrestling? And did it take time for you to say, this is who I really am. This is how I do things in the ring as a Filipino and a queer wrestler?
It didn't take that long.
Oh,
I
okay.
think
That was fast.
it didn't take that long because like it's like pro wrestling already had like the queer coded characters in part of its history. Like you had Adrian Adonis, you had Goldust, you had the controversial Billy and Chuck and everything. You had you had those outlandish sassy characters out there that's already part of the culture, especially when it comes to lucha libre. In Mexico, you have the exoticos too, in which that's part of their culture too. And so it didn't take too long to like, as I was starting training and I was doing shows, that I was just simply, I was testing the waters of being myself as a queer wrestler and what I can get away with. That it was just like, oh yeah, that works. This works. This works. This doesn't work, but it's just like we'll find a way that makes that work. So it didn't take that much.
That's kind of cool too, because I am going to go back to Uncanny with that 4-way and to see how much work that you've done, whether it's here in Chicago or in Texas, to have that number one contendership with the Uncanny Unchampionship. How, when you heard the crowd and they're putting you over, all that hard work must have been paid off, and hearing the reactions that you got during that match.
It was euphoric. I remember Devin Carter like recorded it, and I was like recorded like as I was grabbing the star, and exactly what you just said. It was just like hard work definitely did pay off, because I did work my ass off, especially in the Chicago wrestling scene, because it was such a trap. It's because it's just like shockingly, queer wrestling wasn't being as highlighted as much, even though there were queer wrestlers, but it wasn't being as celebrated as when I started out.
Right.
And so hearing that crowd and that it wasn't a number one contendership. It was a call your shot. It was a call your shot ladder match, in which it was just like when you got the star, you got the call. It's like you for the next show, you would call like your kind of what kind of match you wanted. And so
so it's like a Money in the Bank kind of
yeah,
okay,
kind of thing. And so like grabbing that, it just made me realize like how badass I am as a wrestler, and how badass that I have worked, made all these connections, that, everything that I'm posting, everything that I'm not posting, everything that, if I'm going to practice, if I'm going to do this, it has a purpose. And I'm very grateful that when I heard that crowd, that it was just pure validation, just being like, you kick ass and you deserve this, in which I'm now learning to take that in.
Yeah, just capitalize on that, and you're like, all right, soak it, because the next one won't be until June, so that's gonna be a while for you to come back to Austin. So have you ever dreamed of going to the Philippines to wrestle?
That's such a good question. That is such a good question. Abso-fucking-lutely. I would love to go to the Philippines. It's just like, can I survive that plane ride?
I know that feeling. I know that feeling.
It's like, can I survive that plane ride? It's like I haven't been to. I have never been to the Philippines, so
Okay.
but it's just like I hear a lot. It's just like that's that 18-hour plane ride and the.
That's a good nap. That's a good nap spot for sure for 18 hours. Jeez.
No, it's not a good nap spot. I can't sleep on the plane. I can't
That's
sleep
fair.
on planes. I can't, I get very anxious and
Okay.
I'm just like, I want to get out of this. I just want to get out of this thing.
The fob slipped out. I love it.
Yes.
But I am going
Yes.
to
I
ask this, like,
can't.
without, I mean, bypassing the plane ride, have you ever seen like the scene in the Philippines, whether it's on social media or like YouTube videos? And what do you ever watch those videos and think to yourself, I want to wrestle here one day?
I have not seen any videos about the Philippine wrestling scene, but I am
Okay.
curious. So after this interview, I will go ahead and try to watch it. So I
I'll
can
send some links over to
send
you. I'll
me
send some
some
links
because
over.
I will. I'm very I'm just very curious because it's just like, is it going to be as mayabang as I think it is? So I'm just like, okay.
But if you do go, and how much of your style of wrestling will you be able to deliver to the crowds in the Philippines?
I think it's just going to be again. It's just simply going to be myself. It's that grunge. It's that queerness that I express. But then it's just like, and it's very happy. But when times get tough, I will go ahead and hit a bitch. Then it's just like, or I will make them tap out, or I will suplex, and I will bridge the hell out of it, and I will show off that it's just like this queer can actually wrestle, and it's not just like and it's not just like dramatic. It's like it's not just about the dramatics. I can It's like I can walk the walk and talk the talk in skill and making sure that I am that good.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because especially because it's a different style. So imagine like having the adaptation. I was going to say that that's the right word, to adapt to Filipino style wrestling with what you're doing things here in the States. It should be an easy transition to get into when you do land in the Philippines. That
Oh
is.
yeah, definitely. It should be an easy out. I do love that.
This was fun. And honestly, like, because I think seeing you in Uncanny just made me realize that it's not just, it's not just the one stereotypical wrestler who's in one promotion after another. There's a variety and diversity within the wrestling scene that we're now seeing lately. And I'm going to ask this too. I got the question. We just had Jeff Cobb in Backlash. For you, how does that mean in your career that there is a Filipino wrestler who's made it? Well, there's some more, but Jeff Cobb is the more recent one.
Jeff Cobb's
How
more
is
the
that?
recent one. You got Joaquin Wild there too.
Yeah. Yeah, but well, of course, but like we have, oh, that's right, you're right, that's right, LWO, you're right.
We
But
won't talk about it. We won't talk about it, but it's like
I
let's
have
be
to now.
real. But let's kind of be real. When you want to know about our history between like the Philippines and Mexico, then it's just
Yes,
like
we're cousins, bro. We're cousins. We're
we're
cousins.
primos. We're primos. That's what I tell people all the time. So it's
Being
just
in
like
Texas for such a
it's like
long
so
time,
when
I'm
people are like,
understanding
is he
that.
part of LW? It's like, why is he part of LWO? And it's just like technically he's part of the culture. Technically, cultural wise, Spain and everything. But
Up,
back to Jeff
up a
Cobb and what
technicality.
it's like technically, but yeah, but seeing like Jeff Cobb and like Joaquin Wild and seeing other Filipinos on the main stage of it all, it just gives me like that hope. Representation definitely does matter. It really, it really gives. Shotzi was there too,
Yep.
and then you had Kaden Carter there too,
Yep.
unfortunately. And then it's just like, and so it was just like just seeing that Filipino representation, and then you had TJP. Oh my god!
Yep.
It's just like seeing that representation just gives me being like, okay, if they can do it, then I can do it. If
Yep.
like I just gotta work my ass off a little bit harder, try to get in shape a little bit more, try to find my identity more in pro wrestling and everything, because it's just like, It's like it's the what's it called? It's the Jessica Sanchez effect. We all know what happened during Jessica Sanchez during American Idol and all. That it's like when we saw Jessica Sanchez in American Idol, and felt like you could do it. It's like we felt like we can do anything and all, and so it's just like it's like whenever it's the whole thing of like whenever it's like it's Jeremy Pham. Oh my God! It's like when we see all these Filipinos in different things. Hello, Dante Bosco and everything. Just feels like we feel like we can take on that world. It's like we can try. If they can do it, then I can do it. And that's what is so inspiring when I see other Filipinos in like pro wrestling, when I see other fellow kababayans there, whenever I see, because I'm just like, oh God, it's because it's all full of love, and it's full of, who knows? I'll probably see Uncle Dave Batista there. I'll see Tito Dave and everything. and just being like, hey, yeah, blah blah blah. But it's just so loving, and it's so inspiring.
Oh man, this is great. So we'll close our conversation with this, and for the ones who are listening or watching here on YouTube, what is the message that you'd like to bring? Because it is API month. What do you want to share to the audiences everywhere on Spotify, on YouTube, on iHeartRadio? What would be that message?
Do not let people erase who you are. Do not let them erase. That's what I want to just tell people, but especially, and not just people of color, but also the Asians, because it's just like,
yeah.
And especially, and also the Filipinos too, because it's just like, I would just say, don't let yourself or other people erase who you are. Because who you are is amazing, and it should be celebrated.
Especially in your career, what have you learned from that?
Celebrating myself, it brought in a lot. It brought in a lot of opportunity. It made me embrace who I am, not just as a wrestler, but as a person. I call myself the Fat Femme Asian Sensation because, back in the day, during like this, the dating app days when you were allowed to say no fats, no femmes, no Asians or anything like that. And, where you're able to be that, those things were very hurtful. So I took that back as power. And so when I was simply celebrating myself, that's when I got the bookings. That's when I got, the QWI for the last 4 years. That's when I got the Effie's Big Gay Brunches. That's when, simply just celebrating yourself, who you are as a person, will just reap in more benefits than just hiding. You shouldn't. It's like, it's like if you need to hide for safety reasons. Don't be afraid to just like simply being yourself for a while, because you'll never know when a benefit will come and you'll be able to reap what you sowed.
Wow. Okay. This is great. This has been the most Filipino episode that we've done. So this is our third one. This is our third episode. Now we had 2 prior, but this is the most Filipino out of all of it. So I have nothing left to give. You have the floor, and where can we find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Mateo Valentine 8. You can find me on Blue Sky at Mateo Valentine 8. And then you can search me on Facebook at Mateo Valentine.
All right. Now, this is great. No, and it's been a while, because I will say this. You are the 4th Filipino guest on this podcast. So we have representation here on this podcast. We have more to come within the next couple of weeks. And for those who are watching and listening or tuning in on YouTube, Spotify, and iHeartRadio, thank you so much for tuning in. We have one really big guest next week. I'm just waiting for booking, so we're just gonna wait for time. But
Jeff Cobb.
Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and we're on to the next one.
Thank you so much.
All right.